Hello.
Hello.
Feels like a long time, but I guess it's not, but it does.
It does, but I'm always looking forward to our Facebook Live every Friday. Super excited to be here. So this is your first time tuning into our Cafecito for Two, either in YouTube or our Facebook pages. My name is Javier Llerena, and this is my amazing, lovely wife, Christina.
Hello.
We are the founders of Boundless Love.
Healing your marriage before it begins.
And also Boundless Love Ministry by the same name. And our whole purpose is to bring God in the center of your relationship. And we are so excited today.
Yes.
Super excited to have this. I think every episode we keep having this power couples.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And Dana and Shaun were very gracious. We were just chatting. We were chatting them up in the virtual VIP room, and they were saying, we really just don't know what to expect. And we said, well, guess what? Neither do we, pretty much. So it's all good. And it's all about having that transparent, right? Real relationship talk, which is Dana's podcast.
That's right. And you blew it. You told people that we have a VIP room.
Oh, no. Sorry.
So today we're super excited because we have Dana and Shaun Williams, and she has an amazing podcast called Real Relationship Talk, which we were blown away.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to welcome this powerhouse. We're going to take him from the VIP room.
They're traveling
now. to our room. So welcome to Cafecito for Two. We're so excited that you're here with us.
Thank you guys for having us. We're happy to be here.
Yes.
Aww. Yeah, we met Dana a while back, and we were so impressed with your work, and we know that you're a very devoted relationship coach and leader, and anyone who does this kind of work is a sister and a brother to us, because we feel like marriages are such a vital part of our world, of our society, of the health of our families and one another, our self-worth, right? So I just want to honor you, both of you, and your podcast and all your work. We're just thrilled to have you on and be our guests. So thank you.
Yes, I think our audience are going to really benefit from this episode today, because we're talking about forgiveness. And I think it's a topic that Christina and I, we really emphasize couples to think about, right?
Yes.
And practice as well. So like Christina said, we're so honored and so grateful to have you here, because I think you're going to add a lot of value to our audience.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask you both, Dana and Shaun, in your journey of your marriage, I know it's 21 years. And I was saying earlier, I see you as like role models or mentors, because we're just at 14 years. And I feel like every day, every year, it's like another notch in your belt, right? There's more experience. There's like another layer of wisdom and life lessons. And I'm just curious around, can you share a little bit about kind of your personal mission of this work, or why is this so important to you when you talk about real relationship talk, what you want to impart and give to other couples?
Yeah, I think for me, I call the podcast Real Relationship Talk because I think especially in the church, we have these platitudes that we sit on, or these images of what marriage is supposed to be like. And I wasn't finding in our life, we weren't really finding that people were willing to be real with the challenges that marriage brings. It was kind of, all the highlights, but never really showing you like in the back, what does it take when you see a couple like, wow, you've been married for 30 years. I want to know, like, what does that look like? What did it take? And we just weren't seeing a lot of realness in the church, to be honest. And so I think that's what really gave me the passion for this work, is that I wanted to not only give couples advice, but I wanted them to know that like our marriage has been through so much that pretty much nothing that you say is going to raise my eyebrow.
Yeah.
And that God is
hazing. Marriage is spiritual hazing. That's what I said.
Yes. And, because we've been through so much, I think the beauty in that is that God is able to redeem even what seems like it's the most broken thing.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, when there's a will and a way, if you pray on it, right, anything can happen. Anything is possible.
Right.
Yeah, I totally wholeheartedly agree with you, because I think it's so easy to get sucked into like this idea of the perfect marriage or the perfect family, or like trying to, look good, be good, act good, just have it all together. And I
Right.
think Javi and I have been very humbled in our marriage. We feel like we're just, we're pretty much a broken mess, but getting back off the floor every other day. I mean, it's just, you just don't give up.
Right.
Our faith is what really gets us off the ground. Is that what your faith has brought for both of you too? Or how does that play up for you?
Right.
So he's the talkative one, as you will see. Like pulling teeth.
I think the ladies are going to run the show today. I have a feeling, right?
No, the men are vital. What are you talking about?
It's interesting that you talk about broken. One of my girlfriends sent me a song today. I don't remember the name of the song, but the artist is called The Broken Instrument. And when it came across my phone, I immediately thought, wow, God, isn't that what you want us to be? Is these broken instruments in your hand, that he can use us. We can be tools. We can be vessels for his glory, even in our brokenness. And so I think for me, I spent a lot of years, just like you were saying, Christina, kind of comparing my marriage to other people's marriages and thinking, oh my gosh, they have it all together and we're the ones with all the problems. And, short circuiting the fact that God was trying to work through our brokenness to inspire other people and to really bring us to him. And I love that you talk about humility, because that is what marriage does. It will keep you humble and completely dependent upon God.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is the truth. That is the truth.
Well, I want to hear the men's point of view as well. So I want to give.
Do you, Shaun, what's your take in terms of faith and marriage? I'm curious, like Javi will definitely, I'll make him talk too on it, but I'm curious for you, and because I think we've grown a lot personally in our marriage, and also in the families we surround ourselves, the couples that we surround ourselves, where I feel like the men in our lives are much more open about their vulnerability as men, because they're men of God. Like they have a little bit of, I don't know, permission in a way. So I'm curious around your take, like how has your faith really informed you in your own marriage?
Crap, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. I can hear it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, good. So for me, actually, I grew up in a church since I was a little kid. Gave my life to the Lord at 5 years old and grew up in. But as Dana was saying earlier, we never saw the real side of marriage. And so it was only one sided, like the good. Never saw the bad. And so once we started going through the bad, that really tried my faith. It was like, okay, maybe I'm not a Christian or so, because you're not supposed to go through these things. You're not supposed to experience these types of things. And it wasn't until later on in life where I started to mature a little bit and was like, okay, people haven't really been honest and real. There's been a lot of stuff hidden behind. They're not letting you see these things. And so that's what was really my passion, was I was going to be a real person with people and say, yes, I am a Christian, but I do mess up. I'm not perfect. And that to me, that freed a lot of people. That freed me, because once you realize that, okay, I do make mistakes and God forgives me, I can press on and move on. I don't have to live in that mistake and live in shame and walk in and hide and do different things. And so that was a big thing for me. And as I'm ministering to other people, that is my biggest thing to them. And they're you can really see the excitement in their eyes, like, oh, it's okay if I mess up, as long as I ask forgiveness and don't go back down that road again. And if I do, let's not make it so, well, I mean, what am I trying to say? Make it as bad as it was or so, but let's not continue to do it or so. And let me speak on it. Let me call it out. Let me get some help. Let me be open and upfront about it and get some help from other people, because not only are you going through it, they might be going through it too. And so you can walk through it together and help each other out. So.
Absolutely. And I relate from a men's perspective, because I think either Christian or non-Christian men, we tend to put this facades that we're doing everything the right way, man. We're strong, we're providers, everything is cool, right? And when we are humble and we surrender to God and say, okay, I am broken, I'm really broken, and other men see that, you kind of open up to healing, right? To healing to other men that see that as well.
Right.
And I see that all the time. And it's funny because some of the retreats that we go to I go to a men's retreat, Christina goes to women's. The men's retreat is the one that cries the most, right?
Oh, wow.
We're like cry
Oh
babies.
yeah,
We're like,
it's hardcore.
People,
the women come on the last day and we're like, are you all right? Like, what's going on? Because there's so much release, right? Just like years. I mean, decades, right? It's crazy.
And
Beautiful.
my now this comes to mind. I remember my dad. That was a sign of weakness for you to come out and say, my marriage is not doing well. My dad would be like, what? You're not handling your wife correctly, and it was like, oh yeah, and that macho mentality, and I grew up seeing my dad with that state of mind. That was his philosophy. I mean, he was atheist, but that was his philosophy, and
that's another show.
That's another show,
right?
But it's so interesting, and now that I am seeing men at church, I'm like, God, we have to come down on our knees and say, we're broken, man. We need help, and then for other men to see us that way and open up and have a dialogue, have a conversation. So I relate 100%.
Yeah, we did a marriage conference, or led an XO conference. I don't know if you heard of it. We had it at our church, and we had breakoff groups, the men and the women, and we're telling the women, just make sure you guys are on time. Make sure we get back.
Yeah.
I think they came and got us like 3 times. Like,
we were like, we're good, and they were in there just going on and on and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, but that shows you, in terms of what you're talking about, is that if you're just willing to like open the door a little bit and shed the light sometimes around that darkness, it's like, because when we went through our darkest time, in our relationship, where we were actually, contemplating separating, you're so isolated in your thinking. Your mind is so limited. Right. And so I think that's what you're speaking to, is that in your own brotherhood and sisterhood before God, if you can really let that, just expose your heart, right? Let it out, whatever's weighing on you. And I do feel, I love what you said, Shaun, about, your own forgiveness of yourself, because we can become prisoners of ourselves, of our own past, right? And when we have, gone through our own reflections and thought back on our marriage, it's a trip, because you're like, really, that's what happened? Like, I sometimes feel like I rewrite the history of my own marriage. Like, I'm like, that didn't happen. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that did happen, So I don't know if you ever feel that way, but it's just, there's so much growth that God takes us through, right?
Yeah, if you're willing, for sure.
Yeah, and that's one thing Dana and I have done that really helped us. We focus on, instead of focus on each other's wrong, we focus on ourselves. And when we did that a couple of years ago, I know she thought I was crazy, but I was like, I just got to take everything away from me. I need to focus on me. I need to take you away, take sex away, just take everything away so I can focus on me. And that's when we started to see a change, because I had to look in the mirror and have that harsh reality, like, this is not a beautiful picture. This is ugly. And once I started doing that and tackling those things one by one, Dana was able to see from the outside, oh, he is serious. He is making changes. And I wasn't focused on her. She wasn't focused on me. And then we came together as one. Once we got ourselves together, we fixed the broken pieces within ourselves. Then we were able to come together as one.
Absolutely.
Wow,
yeah.
that's beautiful.
Thanks for sharing. That's so true, right? Because we always looking into the you, right? We always, when we're doing workshops with couples, we say, hey, do not use you do this, use I. And I feel this way. And I wish, if you, instead of you, point the finger, because as soon as you point the finger, you know what's going to happen. That person's going to say, no way, you.
But
Right.
it's a deceptive human error, right? Like the mind, like how you can, and other, people will talk about it as in terms of the enemy, right? Like the setup of like, when you feel threatened, your walls go up or your defense mechanism. I have to really, I've gotten better, but it's constantly catching myself. You know what I mean? My own game around like, wait a minute, I need to back off. This is actually my choice. This is what I'm responsible for. I am the biggest person here. I'm not a victim. You know what I mean? And thinking through. And I just think that's really courageous, that work that you did, because if you do separate out, you're not going to fall for that many distractions, right? You have to sit with all of that in yourself.
Yeah. And I think, ultimately, one of my girlfriends always says, even if I'm only 5% of the problem, I have to own 100% of my 5%. Right? And so often it's like, we get into this game of like, well, my husband's the problem. And if he wouldn't do this and if he wouldn't do that. And so when you're putting all that energy into trying to fix that other person, which they're probably not even thinking about whatever you're upset about. Right. And so you're putting all this energy and focus into everything they're doing. You don't get the privilege of growing because you're not focusing on your stuff. So, practically speaking, I think for me, we had gone through a season of our marriage where there was just no trust, none. And so what I was doing is I was being the Holy Spirit, the police department, the private investigation department. Like
you had it all. You had it all down.
Right? And so I was going to look for things and find things. And it was really that what you talked about, Christina, that defense mechanism. It was like, if I find something, somehow I had believed that I wouldn't be as devastated if I find it first. Yeah. So I'm going to go find it. And what that was, I was wasting time. I wasn't parenting my children. I was obsessed with this whole, I've got to find this stuff out. And then when I said, you know what, Lord, there's a song, it's an old song. We sing it. It's a classic song, but it talks about how God robes himself in light and darkness tries to hide and trembles at his voice. How great thou art. There was a lyric in that I was in a conference one day, and that lyric just it just gripped my mind. And I thought, God, you robe yourself in light, and darkness cannot hide in your presence. So if I am in your presence, that means any and everything that you feel like I need to know, you're going to reveal it to me. I don't have to be finding all this information. So when I let all that go, then I now have the energy to focus on my own hurt, my insecurity, what I was contributing to how I was contributing to the problem. And so that's deep soul work. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that because it's painful work. Yeah. You're opening your heart up for us, those of us who are believers, thank God we can open ourselves up to the Lord. Right. But if someone doesn't have a relationship with the Lord, that's a pretty scary place to be, because you don't know what you're going to find once you start digging deep into the recesses of your own heart.
Yeah, and it's a very quick path to feeling helpless and powerless, and right. I mean, you get in touch with that. I mean, I love what you say too, because so much what comes up for me when I hear that, Dana, is like spiritual surrender, right? Like letting it go, let God take it. And I think in the darkest moments when my faith has been tested, once I get down to that's why I was saying, spiritual hazing, marriage is spiritual hazing because it brings you to your knees, right? Oh, yeah. And once you're at your knees, it's like, okay, I need to let it go. Like, I can't hold this anymore. Like, and then you realize, oh, it's not mine to hold. Like, I am messing this up by trying to hold it, right? Or control it, or fix it, or whatever it is. So,
I mean, Jesus said, take my yoke upon you. We don't really use the word yoke in our context a lot, but he said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And so a lot of times when I'm overwhelmed and when I feel like these burdens are too heavy, I realize, because I'm not supposed to be carrying them anyway. If I'm going to take on Jesus's yoke, then that doesn't mean my life is going to be peaches and cream and happy all the time. I'm going to have to go through some struggles, but it should not be this feeling like I was just being completely weighed down and oppressed by the enemy. And he was using our circumstances in order to do that. So I think at the end of the day, again, I understand that there might be couples who are watching that are not, Christians, but I always say, like, if you need a reason to be a Christian, this is it. Like,
Very
you
true.
cannot carry these things by yourself. There's just
Absolutely.
no way.
Well, and it shows you too, like we have some friends recently that were sharing with us. Have you looked at the divorce rate since COVID? Like it's climbing, or I don't know the data points, and I don't know how accurate that is, but it makes sense to me because it is been such a difficult time for so many people and so many families. But it doesn't surprise me, right? Because if you don't have any support, and if you don't have that faith or community behind you, right, it's very, very difficult to navigate. And even for us, Javi and I are outliers in our families. We always joke that we're the Jesus freak children of our families. Like we are not, like, not everyone else is let's just say as enthusiastic, and the point being that thank God people really rose for us, but I can't imagine sometimes people, your friends will just say, well, leave it, just walk away, you know what I'm saying? Like people don't always share that same viewpoint if you don't have that value base of like, maybe you need to stick this out, or maybe you need to, like both of you were talking about, doing some of that deep soul work. Because that's I don't think that's common, like, currency. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, I'm seeing I was talking to Shaun about this, I think last week, where I'm seeing some of the celebrity-ish couples that I've looked up to, Christian couples that are divorcing. And, I think that one of the other reasons is because people are not used to spending so much time together. And so being quarantined and being in COVID, it's like you can't run and hide. A lot of times we busy ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Work and out and about. And now it's like, oh, we're home, And so
it's you and me.
Oh yeah.
You're here again. Okay. And so
the problem is in front of us.
Yeah, the problem is us. Yes.
And so it's forcing people to see what's always been there, but what they've been able to kind of hide. And now there's no hiding. And unfortunately, there are a lot of couples who just aren't making it through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the truth kind of, right? It floats up. It's like in your face, and you have to look at it in a different way to get through it, because there's no way, I think going forward for all of us, this has been an invitation to do life differently, right? Or to change something about our life. Because I think, thank God, our faith is encouraging us, but our kids, at least in California, they're saying for us, they probably won't go back to school all academic year, right?
Wow.
So that is you have to rely on other ways to understand things, right? I mean, if we just try to problem solve, I think with our humanness, it wouldn't work out very well. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. I have a question, since we wanted to touch on forgiveness. He's
leading me back. He's leading me back.
He did it in such a gentle way, though.
I know. Yeah. Thank you.
What is your take? I mean, you talk to so many couples, right? You are a relationship coach. You interview so many interesting people. When it comes down to forgiveness, what is your right? For us, I think for Christians, we might have a different definition in forgiveness. But on a relationship, where you see forgiveness being essential, and what is the first step for couples to, embrace forgiveness, and how you start, right?
You want to go first?
I'll go first.
I think, and I'm not trying to sound cliche, but I really do believe that forgiveness is the currency of a healthy relationship.
Yes.
It's not like when you surrender your life to Christ, you make a decision that you're going to give up your rights. That's your rights to be offended, your rights to hold a grudge, your right to keep account. Like, you give up all those rights. And so bringing yourself back to, when I became a believer, I gave up those rights, helps. Now forgiveness, when the thing is when we hold unforgiveness, what we're saying, honestly, is, God, I don't trust you to take care of me. I feel like I have to hold this grudge, because around this grudge that I'm carrying, it keeps me safe. It keeps me safe from being hurt again. It keeps me safe from having to, be disappointed again. And so forgiveness is, I'm sure everyone has heard it said that forgiveness is really ultimately a gift that you give to yourself.
Right.
Because it frees you from having to do all those things, to keep account, to keep a record. It frees you from being God, and trying to hold judgment against somebody else. And so for me, I'm not a naturally forgiving person. I'm the person who, I love the scripture that says vengeance is mine, but you have to add the comma, saith the Lord, right? Like there's not a period
we
after
have
the
a
word
daughter like
mine.
that. We have a child like that for sure. That is her favorite line.
Oh yeah,
that came to mind.
read after that. Yeah. But for me, so I'm very I'm like, oh, the things that go through my mind, it's horrid sometimes. I'm like, oh my goodness, But for me, I have to, when I'm tempted to get revenge, I literally have to bring myself back to that right. I trust that you have seen this justice and that you love me and you're going to take care of it.
Well, we have a connection problem, so we're just gonna.
Did we lose you guys? Can you still hear us?
Yeah,
yes,
we get you're back on.
Okay.
We're good.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries. That's the beauty of doing it live.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
No edits here.
That was the enemy right there. You didn't want me to get that out.
Well, because it was such a good nugget, right?
It was nugget.
And you were like, that was huge.
It was huge.
Yeah. What do you have to say about forgiveness?
Man, it's hard to follow up that.
You got it.
Jeez. I'm different. Forgiveness is easier for me at times until I get that one moment where I need to go tell them. I just hold on to something. But I'm the type of person, I like to forgive and press on and just let it roll. I like to say I have the motto, God's going to take care of it, and I just can press on. But again, there are certain instances where I hold on to it, but I also, when I hold on to it, I feel myself beating myself up and like, this sucks, because she said it earlier, she's probably moved on. I'm sitting there holding on to it, won't forgive her. And she was like, what's wrong with you? And, I've been holding on to it for a week. And then I finally get it out. She was like, what happened? It's like, whatever. And that was pointless because I didn't held on to it until I finally got my moment. And I'm ready to say something. She was like, okay, is it really that big? And so then after I say it, I'm like, I guess it wasn't. Jeez. So for me, I really try to, just let it go. If I get offended, bring it up. Hey, this is what happened. I forgive you. Let's press on. Let's move on. And I really encourage people to do that instead of holding on to it, because it really, like Dana was saying earlier, you beat yourself up when you hold on to it. Yes. And, you're not really helping, you're not hurting your spouse because she's then moved on. He or she's moved on. You're just hurting yourself. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too, because you hold yourself hostage, right? It's like, or even the relationship, it's like a moment in time. I feel like there's so many failures, there's so many mistakes that we all make. That's just part of being human, right? And so if we're gonna really, like you said, if you're gonna try and account for or tally or document or whatever, that's crazy making. There's there's no way you can wrap your head around all of it. And so I always feel like, for me, in terms of forgiveness, I really relate to you, Shaun, because it does come easier for me, definitely. But I'm a slow burn. I'm someone that it takes me sometimes a long time. And then, my kids know, they're like, okay, it's over now. We got a few hours of this with mom like this. But, I could, but what I recognize is, if I face my part, if I face Javi and I own it and I release it, then I almost kind of feel silly about it. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like, wow, that's what I was upset. And sometimes, to be honest, it is very childish. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Very childish thoughts. But I have to kind of just expose it to let it go.
That's right. Yeah, I was giving him a little look. I was like, it's very childish. No, it's true. It's true. And then you realize that you've wasted all this time, and then pride gets in the way, and so like I've really they say like never ask the Lord to humble you. Like that's one of the most like dangerous prayers that you can pray. Humble yourself. And one of the ways that you humble yourself is you realize that we are people that are in constant need of forgiveness. Like I sin every single day, and I need forgiveness from God every single day. So the Bible says that if you do not forgive your brother, then God will not forgive you. And so when you think of that, that's heavy.
Yes.
That's very heavy. And that's why, again, I was saying we don't have the right. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have the right to feel hurt, because we do have the right to feel hurt, but we don't have the right to then make our spouse pay us a debt that we are going to tell them, you owe me this amount of money, and no matter what you do, you're never going to be able to pay it back.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Yeah,
it really is. It's a lose-lose for sure. Yeah. But I love that when you talked about too, Dana, about when you become a believer, you surrender your rights, and that's a pretty big deal too. If you really think it through, it's like, wow. I mean, now I'm going to, this week I've been practicing in my prayer work in the morning, a lot of what I call, penance, which is just, really trying to ask for forgiveness before God for, and be consistent about it this week. And so I've been praying a lot, and I've been sharing with Javi, and it's just by doing that in a attentive, focused, disciplined way, just for a week. I mean, this isn't, that long or anything. I feel so humbled, like, wow, there's a lot to ask forgiveness for.
Yeah.
For real, like, just because that's how it is. That's what it's about,
That's so cool. So I want to thank you. I think we can go on.
I know
for hours and hours, and really, because you're an amazing couple. I feel like we're already brothers and sisters. Obviously, we're brothers and sisters in Christ. But I feel that if you live next door, I will not.
We'd be coming over right now.
Yeah, we'll be coming over. Let's talk and see that. But we're so grateful that you're here, and we're so grateful that you spend this time with us and really sharing your amazing experience and what you do for couples. And I think, like Christina say, I think the more couples like us that we are out there really trying to encourage couples to look into their relationships and make it better, and really focus on your domestic church that Christina and I call it. I think the better we definitely going to change the world. So I just want to, where people find your podcast is they can find it everywhere, right? And
they can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Real Relationship Talk. Of course, they can go on my website at danashay.com/podcast. I also have a free resource that I'm giving out called 5 Relationship Mistakes That Are Ruining Your Life. And one of those is to get, let the cat out of the bag a little bit. It talks about forgiveness. And so people can go to my website and find all of that information out. But yeah, so that's where they can find me.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Excellent. And just want to thank your amazing husband right there, and my brother in Christ for being with us and humor us and answering and sharing as well, because we really appreciate that.
Yes, you're a dynamic duo. For sure. And just before we leave, can I sneak in one thing really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
If there's one thing that you would say for young couples as they're entering marriage, right? Any advice or parting words around any encouragement that you would want to impart? It doesn't have to be long, just any thoughts around that.
I would say, just stay curious about each other. Don't lose your friendship. Don't allow life and work and kids that will come later. Don't allow any of that stuff to bog you down. Just stay curious about each other and maintain that friendship.
And it's okay to mess up. Be open and honest with each other. Have a good friend that you can talk to, and that's going to encourage you to do the right things. And just don't give up.
Amen. I love
Yes,
it.
I love it. It's great advice. Thank you. And I hope people take that good advice. Just wanted to wrap it up. And as you know, we are a nonprofit ministry.
Yes,
And
yes.
we love if you can buy us a cup of coffee. So if you go to this website below, you can donate for every
if
single.
it moves you, yes.
If it moves you, yeah. If it doesn't come from the heart, then don't buy me a cup of coffee. Because the delivery service, I don't like that. I want to have a conversation with you. So we really appreciate it. And great, we have we definitely gonna acknowledge Cynthia. Hey, thank you
Yes,
for
she enjoyed
listening.
it.
Yes,
Thank you,
great conversation.
Cynthia.
Oh well, we are
And
so
Nieves.
yes, we're so glad that you listen to us and you spend time with us today. So great. So just want to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Want to leave you here with our social media as well, so you can join us in Facebook and YouTube, and visit us and subscribe and comment and do all the good things.
Yeah, go for it.
So thank you very much.
And don't forget to check out Dana's stuff too.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much. Amazing power couple. We love you. It was
Thank you,
great
Javi.
getting to
Love
know
you guys.
and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.